Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to see you again on my channel. Today we're tackling a crucial topic, word stress. Many students find this concept challenging, and I know that you've all been eagerly waiting for this video. Understanding word stress is essential for improving your pronunciation and comprehension in English. In this video, I'll break down the rules and provide practical examples to help you master this topic. So, if you're ready to enhance your English skills, stay tuned. Let's dive in and make word stress simple and accessible for everyone. Word stress is the key to clearer pronunciation. Word stress is a fundamental aspect of spoken English, influencing intelligibility and conveying meaning. It involves emphasizing certain syllables within words, making them stand out. Now, what do we mean by word stress? As a definition, word stress refers to the emphasis placed on specific syllables within a word. This emphasis makes those syllables louder, longer, and higher in pitch than other syllables. Let's take the word record, for example. The first syllable re is stressed, while the second syllable cord is unstressed. This creates a distinct pattern of emphasis. Now, why is mastering word stress so important? The answer is quite simple, actually. Mastering word stress is essential for enhancing clarity, fluency, and confidence in speech. By applying stress correctly, you ensure that your communication is not only more understandable, but also sounds more natural, thereby increasing your overall impact. Let's elaborate further. First, clarity. Proper word stress makes your speech clearer and easier to understand. It helps listeners distinguish between different words that sound similar when pronounced without stress. Second, natural sounding. Using appropriate word stress makes your pronunciation sound more natural and fluent, allowing you to sound more like a native speaker. It is key to conveying the intended meaning and emotion. Finally, confidence. Knowing and applying word stress rules can significantly increase your confidence in speaking. It helps you focus on correct pronunciation and avoid common errors. Having established the importance of word stress, let's explore its nuances by identifying its types. So, we have 3 types of word stress. Primary stress, the strongest emphasis in a word, making the syllable stand out significantly. Secondary stress, a less pronounced emphasis than primary stress, but still noticeable, particularly in longer words with multiple syllables. Unstressed syllables, syllables without any emphasis, pronounced more softly and quickly. Now that we understand the importance of word stress and its types, let's take a closer look at how stressed and unstressed syllables function in speech. Stressed syllables are longer, louder, and higher in pitch than unstressed syllables, helping to emphasize the word's meaning. Whereas the unstressed syllables are shorter, softer, and lower in pitch than stressed syllables, often pronounced quickly and with reduced vowels. Having explored the characteristics of stressed and unstressed syllables, we can now examine the concept of vowel reduction in unstressed syllables and how it affects pronunciation. So what do we mean by vowel reduction? In unstressed syllables, vowels often change their sound, becoming shorter and less distinct. Examples. The vowel in about becomes a schwa sound in the unstressed syllable. The vowel in comfortable also reduces to a schwa sound. Now, we'll take a closer look at the rules of word stress. Let's begin with the most common word stress rules. As you all know, a word can be either monosyllabic, disyllabic, or multisyllabic. In monosyllabic words, the stress naturally falls on that syllable, and we typically don't mark it since it's already clear. In disyllabic words, the stress is placed on the first syllable if the word is a noun or an adjective, and on the second syllable if it is a verb or a preposition. Keep in mind that there are many exceptions to this rule. Some disyllabic nouns and adjectives are stressed on the second syllable, and some verbs and prepositions are stressed on the first. The best approach is to learn the stress pattern of individual words. In multisyllabic words, 3 or more syllables, this is where your penultimate and antepenultimate rules come into play. But again, they are not absolute. The stress is placed on the second to last syllable, also called the penultimate rule, for words ending in ice, sion, or tion. For words ending in psi, tie, fi, jai, or al, the stress falls on the third to last syllable, which is called the antepenultimate rule. We're going to explore some examples of word stress and the rules that apply to them. Let's start with the word go. Since it's a monosyllabic word, it naturally has stress on its single syllable. Now, take market as an example. In two-syllable nouns, the stress usually falls on the first syllable. On the other hand, with a word like attend, which is a two-syllable verb, the stress typically shifts to the second syllable. Moving on to three-syllable words, let's consider animal. Here we have the antepenultimate rule, so the stress falls on the first syllable. Meanwhile, in the word fantastic, the stress lands on the second syllable because it ends in IC, which is the penultimate rule. Next is protection, a polysyllabic word that ends in tie-in. Here, the stress falls on the syllable just before the ending. While in activity, a word ending in ty, the stress is placed on the third to last syllable. Finally, let's look at democracy, a four-syllable word ending in cy. In this case, the stress is also on the third to last syllable. Understanding these patterns can make pronunciation much easier and help you sound more natural in English. Let's talk about compound words and how stress patterns work with them in English. First, in compound nouns, the stress typically falls on the first syllable. For example, in the word blackbird, the stress is on black. When it comes to compound adjectives, the stress usually falls on the second element or part of the word. For instance, in old-fashioned, the emphasis is on fashioned. Now, with compound verbs, the stress shifts to the second part. Take overflow as an example. The stress is on flow. Lastly, for phrasal verbs, the stress is placed on the particle. For example, in put down, the emphasis is on down. By recognizing these patterns, you can improve both your pronunciation and understanding of compound words in English. It's all about where the emphasis naturally falls. Let's dive into some examples of how stress works in compound words. In compound nouns, the stress is usually on the first part. For example, in words like football, teacup, notebook, and airport, the emphasis falls on the first syllable: football, teacup, notebook, and airport. When it comes to compound adjectives, the stress shifts to the second part. For instance, in bad-tempered and well-known, the stress is on tempered and known, bad-tempered, well-known. For compound verbs, the stress typically falls on the second part of the word. Examples include overthrow, understand, outrun, and overcome, where the stress is on throw, stand, run, and come. Overthrow, understand, outrun, and overcome. Let's dive into the relationship between word stress and suffixes in English. Suffixes play an important role in determining where the stress falls in a word. They can be categorized into three types: stress-carrying suffixes, stress-shifting suffixes, and neutral or weak suffixes. First, let's talk about stress-carrying suffixes. These are suffixes that naturally carry the stress themselves. For example, words ending in ee, ese, eer, aire,ette, etc. all have the stress on the suffix. Next are the stress-shifting suffixes, which cause the stress to follow specific rules. Many of these follow the penultimate rule, where the stress moves to the second-to-last syllable of the word. Common suffixes in this category include ial, ian, ic, ical, ity, and tion. Finally, we have neutral or weak suffixes, which do not affect the stress pattern of the base word. When these suffixes are added, the stress remains on the same syllable as in the root word. Examples of these suffixes include able, age, ance, er, ess, ful, ize, ly, ment, ness, and some. Now, let's look at some examples for each type. For suffixes like I, see, and ical, the stress falls on the penultimate syllable, which is the second to last syllable of the word. Examples include dramatic and historical. Similarly, suffixes like ion and it also follow this penultimate rule. You can hear it in words like commission, diversion, activity, and curiosity. Now, some suffixes, such as and EER, carry the stress themselves. The emphasis naturally falls on the suffix, as in employee and engineer. On the other hand, neutral suffixes like able and less don't affect the stress pattern of the root word. In these cases, the stress remains earlier in the word. For instance, remarkable and hopeless keep their stress on the root syllable. Finally, let's talk about words ending in graphy. These follow the antepenultimate rule, where the stress is placed on the third to last syllable. Examples include photography and geography. By recognizing these patterns, you can predict stress placement and pronounce words with confidence. Let's explore the stress pattern in English words. The stress pattern refers to how certain syllables in a word are emphasized more strongly than others. To help us understand this, we use a simple system. 2 indicates the primary stress, the syllable that is emphasized the most. 1 indicates the secondary stress, a syllable with less emphasis than the primary stress, but still stronger than others. 0 indicates unstressed syllables, which are pronounced weakly. We have 5 key rules to remember. 1. Every word has only one primary stress. There can only be one syllable in a word with a 2. 2. No word begins with the pattern 0-0. You won't find 2 unstressed syllables at the start of any English word. 3. Certain stress patterns are not allowed. The sequences 11, 12, 21, or 22 cannot occur within a single word. 4. 2 syllables before the primary stress always follow the pattern 10. If a word has 2 syllables leading up to the primary stress, the first syllable will have secondary stress, 1, and the second will be unstressed, 0. 5. 3 syllables before the primary stress follow 100 or 010. To decide which pattern applies, we look at the root word. The syllable in the root with the strongest stress will take the secondary stress in the longer word. To illustrate, let's take the word justification as an example. First, let's break it down. The word justification has 5 syllables. The stress pattern is 1, 0, 0, 2, 0. But why? The root word is justify, with the stress pattern 200. In the longer word justification, the primary stress is on CA, syllable 4. The syllable jus, which had the primary stress in the root word, now takes the secondary stress in the longer form. So, the stress in justification becomes 1, 0, 0, 2, 0. Having explored the basic rules of word stress, let's now turn our attention to how the endings of words, or suffixes, can influence stress patterns. Let's now focus on word stress and endings. There are 3 types of endings, or suffixes, added to the root word, and each can influence or change the stress pattern. Strong endings follow the penultimate rule. Bound endings sometimes are strong and sometimes weak. Weak endings, they do not affect the stress pattern. We'll start with strong endings, which play a significant role in determining stress placement. Let's look at some examples to see how these strong endings affect stress patterns. In all these examples, the stress falls on the syllable before the strong ending, and the endings themselves remain unstressed. If the strong ending has 1 syllable, it is marked as 0. If it has 2 syllables, it is marked as 00. And if it has 3 syllables, it is marked as 000. This rule will help you predict where stress will fall in words with these common suffixes. Let's move on to weak endings and how they affect stress patterns in words. When a word has a weak ending, the stress pattern of the root word remains unchanged. Here are some examples of weak endings and their patterns. As you can see, weak endings like ed, lie, ari, and others simply add additional syllables but don't alter where the primary stress falls. You add zeros to indicate the syllables in the weak ending, and the root word's stress pattern remains intact. So, essentially, the weak ending does not affect the stress pattern, and you simply add as many zeros as there are syllables in the weak ending attached to the word. Moving to bound endings, which are another important category in word stress patterns. The most common bound endings in English are summarized in the table below. When these endings are added to words that already have a regular stress pattern, they typically behave like weak endings and do not change the stress pattern. However, when added to words with irregular stress patterns, bound endings can change the stress, making the stress pattern more regular. Here are some examples to illustrate how bound endings work. Heretic, 200. Heretical, 0200. Catholic, 20. Catholicism, 02000. Catholicize, 0200. Politic, 200. Political, 0200. Rhetoric, 200. Rhetorical, 0200. As you can see, adding bound endings can either maintain the original stress pattern or regularize it, depending on the word. In the following table, you'll find the most common bound endings along with examples that illustrate how they affect the stress pattern of the word. Let's now explore some practical strategies for identifying and practicing word stress patterns in English. Understanding word stress is essential for clearer and more natural spoken communication, and with consistent practice, you can improve your skills. How to identify word stress patterns? First, it's important to listen carefully to native speakers. Pay attention to how they pronounce words and notice which syllables are emphasized. This will help you recognize patterns and get a feel for natural stress placement. Next, you can use dictionaries to assist you. Many dictionaries show word stress with a symbol like a vertical line or an accent mark before the stressed syllable. This is a helpful guide when learning new words or checking your pronunciation. Finally, practice is key. Regularly practicing identifying and applying word stress in your spoken English is crucial. This skill takes time and effort, but with consistent practice, it will become more natural. Once you've learned how to identify word stress, it's time to focus on practicing it. One great method is to listen and repeat. Listen to recordings of native speakers and practice repeating words with the correct stress patterns. This helps reinforce your learning through imitation. Creating word lists is another effective exercise. Write down words that follow similar stress patterns and practice pronouncing them correctly. This will allow you to familiarize yourself with different types of stress patterns. Finally, try to read aloud from books, articles, or scripts. As you read, pay close attention to word stress and vowel reduction. Reading aloud is a great way to improve your fluency and stress application. By mastering word stress, you will significantly enhance your spoken English, making it clearer, more natural, and more confident. Whether you're speaking with others or practicing on your own, regular practice and attention to detail are crucial. With time, you'll see improvements in your communication and feel more comfortable speaking in English. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the important topic of word stress. I hope you found the tips and exercises helpful in mastering this concept. Remember, understanding word stress is key to improving your pronunciation and communication skills in English. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to English Tutor for more valuable lessons. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Feel free to leave your questions or comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.